Thank you for joining. My name is Yushen, and I will be your moderator today. Today's session is titled Railway Domain Session 1, IFC Rail Feedback and Maintenance, also featuring a presentation from RFI, IFC 4.3 in practice, lessons from railway digitalization. The speakers will present themselves a little bit later, and before I hand over to the speakers, I would also like to bring your attention that buildingSMART is committed to ensure that participation in the development of standard is unrestricted, and the process of their adoption is transparent, and the standards that are developed are not favor any particular provider, and they are open, non-binding, and accessible to all. Please take note of our antitrust code of conduct. Now I would like to hand over to Stephen.
Okay, hello and warm welcome from all of us. We are now introducing our draft to the IFC Rail Feedback and Maintenance. What can you expect from this session? After getting to know each other a little better, we'll give a brief overview of the basics of our ideas and the key benefits that are summarized based on the workshop that we did in Marrakesh. Then we would like to engage you to do a hopefully good discussion about our personal and your personal contribution before we present the actual draft. And after that, we'll also have time to answer your questions and take a look at the next steps. Before we introduce ourselves, we would like to get you a little bit to know you a little bit better. So it would be great if those of you who work for railway companies could raise their hands. Perfect, thank you. Now, those who work for other infrastructure companies. Not so much. And are any software vendors among us? Okay, also not so much. And now, last but not least, the companies that are responsible for planning and doing our infrastructure projects in the operative. So it's 3, 4, 5. Okay, thank you. And now, of course, we would like to briefly introduce ourselves. I'm going to start. I'm Joachim Kahnes. I'm 40 years old and team leader for the object libraries at the Infrago AG. Infrago AG is the infrastructure company at the Deutsche Bahn Group, so the German railway company. I'm not alone. With me are our colleagues Stefan.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stefan Reiser. I'm head of the Center of Competence BIM at the Swiss Federal Railways SBB.
And my name is Marc Pingou. I'm from Switzerland as well, working for Rosenthal & Partner and supports IFC Rail since the very beginning in 2017. And in charge now, we had a surprise for you. We have prepared something for you. That was our support in this stage at the moment.
My name is Matthias Kupser. I'm as well from Rosenthal & Partner, like Marc. And I'm consulting in BIM different projects as well since 2017.
Okay, so I also want to welcome you to this session of the railway domain, and I hope you enjoy this summit as much as I do. So, you can sit down. My name is Franz Josef Bär. I'm working at the asset management department of for infrastructure in the Austrian Federal Railways, ÖBB Infrastruktur AG, and I'm project portfolio manager for the digitalization portfolio, and I am a member of the ÖBB's team, implementing BIM in our company from the very first beginning, which was in 2016. Okay. Then, my first buildingSMART International Summit was 2017 in Barcelona, where I also am happy that there are still a few faces in the room from these days where we some of us signed the memorandum of understanding to build up or to create this railway room, which is now the railway domain. And yeah, some of you may remember this picture. It's from those days. And we used it to explain that there are several steps necessary to reach our goal, which is big and open BIM for infrastructure assets, yeah, for the whole life cycle of the assets. And well, yeah. So I want to sum up a little bit the story. So we founded this railway room, and all the steering committee members from the railway room in those days started the project with the same with the goal as you have seen before, to build up a standard for railway infrastructure assets for the whole life cycle. And yeah, it soon became clear that those days that it's not possible to cover the whole life cycle, every asset, every use case. We developed a lot of use cases and also defined some processes. And we found out that it's not possible with one single project to cover all the complexity of the system of systems when it comes to railway. So immediately after phase one, which ended late 2019, immediately after that, we started the phase two, where IFC Rail, where we try to implement, we focused on a few use cases, and we implement the requirements or those use cases into the standard. We really try to involve the software industry quite early, because yeah, it's clear that without software supporting the standard, the nicest standard is useless. So, and then yeah, with the approval of IFC 4.3, which was the result, and as this is where we are now, and yeah, we use this standard already in several projects, and yeah, some of you may joined the workshop in Marrakesh, which Stefan and I, or in this workshop, Stefan and I worked with you together. And we found out together that there is, yeah, there's a lot of questions out there. Support is needed and so on. And this questions and feedback comes in different ways. So there is no one single channel or one single yeah, tool where you can ask the questions. And also there are different type of questions, as you can see, more technical or user support or missing entities or missing properties or so. And there are still open questions out there also at the forum, buildingSMART forum. So together we came to the conclusion that there's a need for harmonization of the process, and with clear responsibilities. And yeah, your input, we collected the input from the work session in Marrakesh. I don't know who, some of you were there. And yeah, the most, or the topics which are mentioned most in your feedback were, okay, we must strengthen the community. So it must be it should be community based, so that we can help each other and grow as a community. It must be easy to access. Maybe with some automation should be possible. Was also mentioned on on the feedback we collected, or on the topics. It should be moderated. It must be a defined, clear process with traceable outcomes, so that the person or the organization with the problem can trace and can see who is taking care and who is responsible, and where is the answer then at the end.
Thank you. So just to summarize, the activity proposal that we want to present to you this afternoon, I think I can do it on a laptop, even if it blinks, that we want to present to you this afternoon is something that is really dear to our hearts, and I think it's very much due to the role that we have in the railway domain. The railway domain is mainly consists of public stakeholders. And we as public stakeholders, we do have a responsibility for our projects. We do have a responsibility for our local industries, and we also do have a responsibility for the standards that we endorse and that we publish in the future. So as a steering committee or as the railway domain, we need to know what the industry feedbacks are and how that can evolve into future standard developments. Now, you all may or may not know, but it was presented also yesterday that there are ongoing so-called tracks that are now being developed between BSI and ISO. There is an update of the collaboration agreement between ISO and BSI that is mainly just to be very specific on that, a formal ISO-led editorial update that is in progress. And then there are the modularization of IFC concept framework for IFC models numbering, a new work item proposal for an update of IFC folder 3, and a new work item proposal for core module of IFC 5 that are under discussion, in development, or being proposed with the intent to become formal ISO initiatives in the future. If you want to read the whole article, then there is a QR code, but you also can find it on the BSI website. I think what is very important is that if we have the perspective of the railway domain in this process, it is crucial that we know what our users or what users of openBIM standards experience, also in successes, but mainly in challenges and in problems that they have in applying those standards. And if we then try to contextualize what the activity proposal is about, then it really comes down to something like this. This is more or less just a sketch, but we have talked in this group that is now presenting. We have had workshops over the past couple of months, and we drafted some processes, and then we step back and we need to validate those. We need your input on this topic to go further. But basically, there are two key processes when it comes to optimizing standards in the future. One is a maintenance process, which, for example, if you have the view of BSI into having maintenance and development of future standards, but maintenance of existing standards, that is one of your key goals. And the other one is maybe the perspective of a standards organization, which is also very focused on maintaining stable standards for the industry and to have a quality assurance of the standards that go into these processes and to distribute them on a global level. Then there is a whole feedback process. For example, if you are a software vendor, you may or may not get feedback from your users. This works with BCF, this works with IFC, this works with IDS, and this doesn't. Now, what we see in our projects that we have, and we do have several BIM projects that we work with, is that a user sometimes gets into a twilight zone or into a limbo when it comes to feedback. Because what would you do if you are a planner and you would address your feedback on standards to someone else that may take care of that? So point number one is you go to your project organization and tell them, or if to the client, and tell them, well, this doesn't work. And the client itself cannot do anything about it because it's software that is there or that has been developed, and that it relies on standards. So the other way, just to also summarize what some knowledge that we gathered in Marrakesh, is that you go to your software vendor, and your software vendor tells you, well, that's a problem of the standard, so you have to address that to the standards organization. Now, you intrinsically put a lot of work in that and go to the standards organization, and the standards organization might tell you, well, that's a problem of your software vendor, you have to talk to your software vendor. And in the end, you lose your trust in openBIM standards, or you start to lose your trust in openBIM standards, and that's not a development that we want to endorse, I think, as an industry in general. There are some very good feedbacks. You could also go to BSI, and that's what Franz Josef touched. If you go to the BSI forum, there are questions about IFC alignment that have been posted there. For example, someone posted a question, hey, I have a problem with IFC alignment. I'm doing my master thesis. Is there anyone that can help me with this? No real answers. 2 years later, same person. I now have my master thesis. I'm still working with IFC. I have an issue with alignment. No answers. And if you have those users, we as a domain need to know what those users want to do further development. Now, there is another perspective which you could possibly have. That's the perspective of chapters. As a national chapter, you are somewhat responsible for the dissemination of knowledge of the use of openBIM standards in your respective country or in your respective market. Because as you all know, industries are local, our markets are local, so that's something that chapters really know what's going on. But chapters sometimes do not have the same approach on maintenance because they are mainly focused on getting that know-how out into the market. And then you have the domain perspective. What we try to be is someone that is somewhere in between chapters, in between software vendors and standards organization. We as a domain try to have the look between the maintenance of existing standards, feedbacks that we gather from our users, and further development of future standards that we could do in the future. But in the end, you have the user, and the user is the one that is outside of this picture. And we somehow have to integrate that user, or at least that's our thesis at the moment, our hypothesis at the moment, that we have to integrate that user more into the development of those standards. Now, there are other maybe examples that could be a parallel to this. And it's always hard if you want to have some key performance indicator on your digitalization projects that you have to somehow give to your bosses, and you have to find them out in a night or so. That might be something that has happened yesterday and today. How do you measure this? And we as a domain do not know how to measure user feedback. We do not know how to somehow categorize this. We have an idea, but we need to evaluate this for the future. And I'm saying this from a, let's say, service or clients oriented perspective as a domain member, but I'm also saying this as part of buildingSMART International, because if we have this user that has this perspective on certain problems, I think we as BSI are part of giving this answer. And just where is this embedded into the strategic value or in the value proposition that we as BSI have? If we want to have the purpose to bring together the global industry to develop and implement open digital standards and services that enhance automation and decision-making across the built environment, lifecycle, improving productivity, sustainability, and profitability, then that's something that we need to respect. If we want to have a seamless exchange of trusted information across the built environment, then that's also something that we need to know if we want to to further optimize and develop this forward. And in the end, I think the mission that we have as BSI is to create and maintain open and reliable digital standards. I mean, that's a no-brainer. That's just part of what we are doing. Also, I'm thinking back to Singapore half a year ago, the role of buildingSMART. To be honest, I don't know how current this role of buildingSMART is at the moment. But if we look at this, and I don't think that's completely wrong, that we have a primary role of buildingSMART, being the industry body responsible for developing open data standards, and the secondary role of buildingSMART, but the primary role of the chapters to support the adoption and application of openBIM standards and services by our members and users. And in the end, if we then draft it again to having the perspective of the domain, then we as a domain have the mandate from buildingSMART International, according to the BSI process, to provide sector-focused knowledge and guidance on the use of openBIM. And that's something that we can do actively, but something that we also have to listen to the people that we provide those informations to ensuring the openBIM workflow addresses sector requirements. Therefore, we need to be aware of the sector requirements that can be somehow summarized on an international level. We have the theme of trusting the openBIM workflow outputs for the sector. If we want to trust our outputs, we need to validate those outputs against the real world, or against the sentiments and the challenges that people that work with openBIM standards face. And we have wider sector-based innovations that I think are only possible if we know what our users want. Having said that, I will hand over the microphone to Joachim.
Much better. So now we've got to the personal contribution and stakeholder relevance. IFC 4 and especially IFC 4.3 are good, but they are not perfect yet. But it's only natural that question or ideas of improvement are arising when we are implementing new standards. So for us at Deutsche Bahn, these are examples like they are not all objects or entities that we need are built up in the IFC standard. For example, signals. There are signals, but they are not 100% perfect match for the infrastructure of the railways. Another point is the alignment. There are often arising questions about the alignment in IFC, and in the last 2 days, there were many good discussions about further development ideas of the IFC. So that's why we have to ask ourselves, how do we handle it when we want to get to give feedback and any ideas for the optimization and development of the IFC standard? So actually, it's probably a little bit easier for us because we have a seat in the steering committee, but we are actually likely would welcome a defined process and contact points for dealing with exact these changes and other issues from other people. So we'd be more than happy to open the interaction part now, and we are getting to know of you. What are your expectations and or requirements to the project before we actually feel free to join.
Who did use IFC in your business? Answer. Okay, and who not? Why not?
Yeah, because of ProRail. Because ProRail, the Dutch rail, isn't working with IFC yet. So that's the main reason. But our companies, Movares and Haskoning, we work in the engineering and consultancy with IFC, but not with ProRail as Dutch railways. So that's the big issue.
I do, however, would like to give compliments to the endeavors of this room, because we see slowly a shift from ProRail towards buildingSMART, and that's all because what you guys are doing here. So thanks. Very well done.
Thank you.
So any other comments, requirements, ideas?
Maybe from a contractor side or a planner side?
What about you, referencing?
Yeah, good point. Those of you who've listened into the last session of the infrastructure domain, Paul has introduced a very good presentation of the georeferencing of our infrastructure and the problems they are appearing with the IFC standard, which is in use right now.
Yes, I'm working as a freelance engineer and doing ontology engineering. So my interest is not implementing IFC for a real purpose. Unfortunately, I didn't get that far. But it is about how to integrate the IFC model, including the IFC railway rail aspects, integrate them, make them to collaborate with other existing models, because the model that does everything does not exist and will never exist. So opening up the usage of IFC, making it more accessible, is important. And if I have one criticism to make, okay, I will do it. Okay, I dare. IFC alignment, as far as I used it, was fine. Some ambiguities, but very limited, not worth mentioning, honestly. On the other hand, I must say that the complexity of the IFC schema is daunting. And it's not helped by the fact that there are no modules. You get the whole soup at once, served in one dish.
From the data model to reference, clear reference between several objects. It's just visual, so that we as a human can see okay, this drainage system is part of this part of a tunnel tube. So because there is a tunnel, then there's a tube, and there is the Abschnitt, I don't know the English word, section. Thank you. The section, and within the section there is one drainage system. And this is currently not possible. So this always another model is needed that you can just map IFC data into our existing systems, which also using IDs and so on. And this is something, yeah, hopefully, I don't know if IFC 5 is thinking about that or so. I don't know. We will see. But yeah, it's one of the problems. And also another problem, so if you don't have a problem, when it comes to GIS, so asset management is with large infrastructures is based on GIS. And we have this projects are always somehow overlapping from the existing infrastructure to new built one, because yeah, infrastructure, that's the nature of infrastructure. And with the concept now of this file-based IFC concept, it's not really possible to have overlapping information, which is yeah, kind of a problem, because when it comes to when you search for data, then you have to know what is the accurate, the most, the latest one. So let's say so. Okay.
Thank you. Maybe the idea of what you mentioned is like the delivery is now files, but I think GIS world is service based, so they have online services, and of course IFC 5 is mentioned to become a kind of service. Maybe I don't really know, but we hope. And it would be nice that you, as a operator, are able to see IFC files as just a delivery, something zip format, and you own an object database in your asset management. And then it's like a cloud service or even fragmented structure. You can merge, combine, interpret, analyze, train, whatever you want to do with the data, but it should be a cloud-based object database and not file-based solution anymore. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think we should go more towards not just bash IFC because it's really not the role. But think about the processual level of this. if you have some, maybe you are a public client, if you have people that work in your projects, where do they put their questions? Do they ask you, or do they maybe not ask your organization at all because you might have signed a BSI manifesto that you are the endorser of IFC for the free and open standards, which is totally fine, and we do that too. But people then tend to not ask questions anymore. Do they ask their projects, or do they not ask at all and just are frustrated with the possibilities that they have in giving back feedback to the developers of standards? Sorry, Peter.
Peter Axelsson, former Trafikverket. So I'm not there anymore, so I'm not really speaking on their terms. But what we are doing now together with Trafikverket, we are looking at how to develop IDSs on how are we going to use those in combination with IFC. And I think the community need to develop some basic IDSs. I think we need to have those as very on a granular level, like have one IDS for coordinate systems, one IDS for some other metadata and things on. So I think those IDSs could be developed on a community basis instead that you are doing them in each organization. And regarding this other question on service-based, I think there is a standard for this, that we go into the linked data and knowledge graph domain that we need to move in the next step. And I really hope that IFC5 will endorse that a little bit more than it has done so far.
So, do you have any more comments? Do you agree with what we developed on the base of the workshop in Marrakesh? Hard question, yeah. But I don't see any bad comments, so I think you all agree, and we can switch and look into the actual draft.
Thank you. So you heard before, we prepared a draft of an activity proposal with the full name: development, implementation, and operation of a feedback and the maintenance process to sustain the IFC Rail Standard, or in short, IFC Rail Feedback and Maintenance. This proposal draft, this activity proposal is an official form from BSI that we used. So it contains chapters like background, what we heard before, scope and objectives with the approach, challenge, etc. Of course, the deliverables and resources, project execution, the work and time schedule, as well as budget and funding. I'd like to give you now a short summary of what we want to provide with this project. We will hand out this proposal draft after a session digitally, or we as well have some physic paper here if somebody needs one. So primarily, we aim to establish, like we heard before, a feedback process as well as a maintenance process for IFC Rail. So a feedback process that collects the pain points and wishes from all the users that use the standard, then assesses these feedbacks and triggers some actions out of them, and goes over to the maintenance process that allocates these actions to specialists and starts then some change projects, and in the end approves and implements those changes. So we believe that the IFC standard is to be maintained, improved, and further developed. Feedback from the rail industry has brought various pain points with the standard. So yeah, we had before it was recognized that many users find IFC hard to understand and overcomplicated to use. So we need special attention on the usability for the users of the standard to gain a wider acceptance within the international rail industry. Yes, you heard it today. It's actually not possible or quite not possible for the users of IFC to give feedback. But the users need the opportunity to ask questions and to give feedback to the standard. Therefore, we want to develop and establish a feedback process on one hand. We want to provide a single entry point for all the feedback of the standard. We want that all stakeholders feel to be listened to and to be involved in the further development of the standard, and the process should promote the existing standard. So we need to convince everyone of the added value of using the IFC Rail. So on the other hand, we want to provide a maintenance process. These two processes, you've seen it before, are directly related to each other. So a user feedback from the feedback process may result in a task for further development, and that passes through this maintenance process. For the design of the maintenance process, we need to take into account that the future operation of the standard needs to focus on the technical accuracy, the usability in the processes and use cases, as well as in the requirements for the item implementation for the tools we later need for that. So therefore, the specific roles and responsibilities are going to be defined in order to apply the process. And it must be built on what already exists, of course, and only envisage the changes and developments that are embraced by the majority in the industry. And of course, the deliverables, we heard it, the main deliverable are, of course, the feedback and the maintenance process together with the role concept, with organization, responsibilities, and so on. Then we have the working methods and collaboration, interfaces and responsibilities, the requirements for the necessary tools to operate these two processes, change management and release planning together with a roadmap, and then a marketing communication strategy, as well at the end, the documents for the concept approval. So some of you might recognize this picture, this methodology of data with the data modeling levels. We come from the reality, go down to the semantic level first, and then further on to the conceptual level, the logical level, and only in the end then the application level. So this methodology was already successfully used when the IFC Rail Standard was created in the first place, and is now widely accepted. So it is important that it retains for later operation of the maintenance process. And yeah, it must be considered that the feedbacks can only given for different levels. The process should then triage this feedback accordingly. And regardless of this, feedback always passes through all of the following levels. This methodology ensures that a change process can be established that follows the change requests and the needs of all the participants. And in particular, it ensures the usability in the real world use cases. So let's have a look on the overall project. We planned several stages. First stage contains the process and the organizational setup. After that, it comes to the personnel recruitment and procurement for the IT tools needed. After that, of course, the implementation of the results. And then stage 4, maybe the main stage, the actual operation of the two processes. And maybe later on stage 5, then the further development of the operation. It's important to say here now that the activity in our activity proposal draft is limited to the conceptual development of the two processes. So in other words, it's limited to the content of the stage 1. So the procurement of all the tools required for the operation, the staffing of the roles defined for the operation, the implementation, and so on, are not part of this activity proposal or of this project. These steps will then follow after the project conclusion based on the produced deliverables from this stage 1. Then the timeline, we intend to stagger the results from this stage 1 across the timeline of the next BSI summits. So by the first summit in 2026, we want to create the feedback and the maintenance process, as well as the role concept with the organization, the responsibilities, and so on. And after that, we want to focus on the working methods for collaboration, the interfaces and responsibilities within BSI and externally with the committees. And then later to the summit, the first summit in 2027, we want to create the change management, the release planning, together with the roadmap, with the prioritization, and as well the marketing and communication strategy. To communicate the results of the offering, to highlight the added value, and to boost the acceptance of the standard within the rail industry. And then, last but not least, by the second summit in 2027, we must prepare the documents for the concept approval accordingly. So, of course, we also have challenges with this project. So to be successful, we need the involvement of many stakeholders. Stakeholders may have different individual interests, so that can be challenging, but of course manageable. We need an active participation of the involved committees like BSI, UIC, ISO, etc., and the railway companies. So we need as well a commitment from them. And of course, resources for the project are required. The budget and funding, we do not have yet clearly defined the financial requirements we need because it depends on the actual project scope and the project boundaries, as well as for the project duration and the special units. And the activity resources and the fundings we need will later developed in the detailed project plan after the activity proposal. So with this current status, we need your commitment to be successful with this project. So questions, discussion.
Give me the mic. I can pass the mic. Yeah.
Thank you.
Also opinions. And I know you all have one.
Are you happy with this activity proposal or with the project?
Yeah, so I think it's very good that you're trying to involve the community. The proposal as it looks now looks very good as well. And I'm hoping that everyone in here feels free to give their opinion as well, because you are actively trying to do this together. And I've seen the rooms grow from Marrakesh in Singapore and now to this room. So we do see more and more members being active. So I hope everyone joins as well. So feel free, as me as not as part of this member group, to also voice your opinion.
Thank you.
Ivan from Bond and Noor, and also the chair of the railway domain. Is this also something that every domain should do regarding the different domains like building, route? Because seeing this, we can make the feedback and maintenance loops, but we will only make sure that those things that are we in principle own as the railway domain will take care of. So if something comes in that's relevant for that's infra domain or responsible, or electrical, or because a railway project is more or less every domain almost. So we might have a situation that something comes in that somebody else needs to do, and this feedback loop will work for all the entities that we as the rail domain and community are responsible for. Is this something that we should put forward as a joint domain project instead, or invite the other domains to join in, and then because when the process is done, in principle it can be implemented on all the domains. So will it be an idea to implement to invite the other domains into this as well?
Okay, Evan, thank you for this question. I think there are two aspects, maybe three. First one is, as a railway domain, we have maybe the highest stake in IFC folder 3 and in the adoption rate of IFC folder 3, and also in evolving IFC folder 3 further, because we believe in existing and standardized standards, and we want to have them applied before we start to run into the next big thing. But then again, I think you're completely right. This is something that in principle could be a project that all the domains can profit from. I have had these discussions with Evandro in Singapore, that there might be a possibility to also position this project at another point. Now, what we have done independently of the development of this project as a German, Austrian, Switzerland, we went pretty far in defining what the project consists of. So I've showed you some process diagrams. Those process diagrams are real processes that we drafted. And then at this moment, we thought, well, we have to take one step back and maybe take into consideration what are the requirements of the railway domain, what are the requirements of BSI, what are also the requirements from the standards organization that we are in liaison with, which is not a liaison between the railway domain and UIC or ISO, but from BSI and ISO and UIC. And that's something that sometimes is not a question that we can answer from a domain stakeholder perspective. But yeah, I mean, in the end, we now have the chance to and the opportunity to define certain aspects that hopefully, in the end, the whole industry can profit from. And that's an excellent argument to put into how this plays into the strategic value of BSI in the future. However, one more aspect, because nobody says anything, then I can talk. One more aspect is when it comes to projects, I think the railway domain can be very proud of what we have achieved in the past. IFC folder 3 and the development of IFC folder 3 has only been possible because there are stakeholders that have the same vision, that have the same goal, and that know how to do projects. So we did that. And that might be an opportunity to have more speed on this if we do that as a railway domain. But that's something that we should consider in shaping this project further, because now we talked about Marrakesh, but I mean the initial, where do we come from with this project is a questionnaire that we had in the Valencia summit with the attendees of this railway domain session, where there were 18 topics which were evaluated, and one of them was feedback. So, and Valencia was what? 18 months, 23, 22, something? Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, no. Right, so we're fast. That's good.
I have a question regarding with the software companies, how they are involved in the, or how open are they to contribute in develop or improving the communication between the different softwares.
No. Oh yeah, Yusheng, you can. No.
I think that's more a question for the technical domain and the implementers forum. That's why I was thinking you might be able to give some answer, but it's not a question that the railway domain take up on a regular basis, because that's more implementers forum and the technical domains where that discussion happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just adding a little bit of information, we get a implementer forum. It's open forum. You can start it with register your account, ask your question directly. It's just like GitHub. It's a communication part. It's online, and after that we get the implementer assembly, which is twice events each year. So yeah, it's gathering all the implementers. You can ask them during the event. So yeah, you can find all those information in the buildingSMART.org website.
Okay. I totally agree with your answers. But then I did disagree a bit on one point, because in the subcontext, I could read out that we think that the software vendors are not open to any development, which they totally are. I think in the end, we are all looking at the same fact that is somewhere in the room, but we have different perspectives and different interests. But if we are in the context of buildingSMART International, we are all endorsed to develop open, non-binding standards. So I think there should be, and there certainly are, software vendors that are very open to that. Because in the end, software vendors want to be there for their users as well. So see, if their user has an issue, it's easier to have a common understanding how this issue is treated and addressed at the standards organization, but then to just somehow try to cover these issues up.
I don't know if it's there already. What would really help me if there is a good IFC Rail demo model available somewhere that we could review, show to clients, etc. I think that will also be very helpful in the further development and feedback and implementing it with our clients as well.
Yeah, that's a good idea, because something that we'll take with us in the further development, because education is another one of those 18 topics that has come up in Valencia, and education works with practice.
Just before I hand over to David, we do have a P-search sample model. It's contain one sample railway, but it's super simple. It's not that complex.
And the infra domain is planning on making a guide for with project example on how to use IFC 4.3. It was mentioned in the infra domain session just before lunch, and I grabbed a hold of Alexa Mitchell, who's leading that working group, and said that this we need to do as a joint guide between railway and infrastructure. So I think that will help as well. And in Bandanur, we are making proof of concept models for our requirements to show the Norwegian companies that this is how an IFC model is supposed to be when you deliver to Bane NOR. I don't have a timeline when we'll have it up, but it will be published publicly when we're done, so it can be used. And that will be a fictional project, so it will be localized geographically correctly, but it's not a line that's actually being built, so all the data is fictional data.
Is there any difference between approaching the light rail and heavy rail in the use case you're working on it?
That's a question that goes to my colleagues over there, probably.
Well, we tried to build up the standard as generic as possible, so that the rail guided transport can be covered. So in national developments, they're already working on light rail catalogs and everything like that. And I think we are generic enough to cover these different parts in the tracks or in the overhead lines and in the signaling. It should work. And I'm sure that I think the Finnish colleague with Tampere Railway or Tampere Tramway also, they did some applications already. And that would be that would be an issue which we can fill in. I know from the French colleague, they go with ERTMS. They need some aspects there. So that's really to go with the future, to go with the clients, to fill up and develop the standard. And I think that's crucial, in fact. Yeah. We will take it in consideration of anyway, yeah.
Good. Any last remarks? Matthias?
So our next steps, we have planned an online meeting, but only in November 13th, 10 in the morning, this time zone here. So you can go to the QR code. There's the meeting file in it. In the meeting file as well is a file or a link that works as well, and over that link you can get to our draft of the activity proposal. So in this meeting, we want to collect your feedback, getting to a discussion of this proposal draft that we actually can kind of close up this activity proposal. So that said, thank you very much for your attention.
But the session is not over yet. But we can hand over to Elena and Luca, which will treat the topic IFC Forwarded Free in Practice, Lessons from Railway Digitalization.
Hello to everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Elena. I'm here with my colleague Luca from RFI. We are civil engineers. And welcome to our presentation titled IFC 4.3 in Practice, Lessons from Railway Digitalization. Let me start by introducing what is RFI, Rete Ferroviaria Italiana. RFI is the company within the FS group responsible for managing the national railway infrastructure in Italy. Our three main pillars are managing rail traffic safely, ensuring infrastructure efficiency, and developing the infrastructure to enhance connectivity across the country. To give you an idea of the scale that RFI operates on, We have about 7,000 kilometers of railway lines, about 25,000 kilometers of total track length, and more than 20,000 of engineering structures, including tunnel, bridge, viaducts. Since 2018, we have been member of buildingSMART International. We contributed to the IFC Rail Working Group. We signed the IFC for Rail manifest as an ongoing commitment for applying IFC 4.3 in practice and promote openBIM in the railway sector. What is railway information modeling? It's a unit within RFI, which I belong to and I work in. It depends on the technical department, directly coordinated by the CEO. Our main responsibilities are the implementation and definition of BIM standards in our organization. In fact, we published a manual titled Digital Information Management for Railway Construction with effective date by January 1st, 2025. But also we deliver training sessions about BIM and to guide the implementation of these standards in our organization and to support the colleagues, for example, in procurements. And we contribute for the information management in our organization. A key pillar of our standards is the data model, that is a conceptual representation of assets type, their information properties, and also their relationship. Actually, we have about 700 type objects and more than 22,000 properties. It originated from the IFC Rail Working Group, but we have enriched it, introducing new type objects with predefined type as a user-defined and more properties according to RFI users' needs. Here we can see an extract of the data model. It's divided into three main parts. First, where we can read the type objects and mapping IFC. The second one showing the properties and pset. And the third one with model users mapping. So, the definition of openBIM standard in RFI, the definition of BIM users and level information need, and taking professional development during this year are leading to a huge and broader project, innovative project in RFI, that is the digital twin of the entire national network. The objectives, the main three objectives of this digital twin are the use of informative models with IFC 4.3, the integration of sensor data from field with the IT system currently available in our organization, and to create a system that supports maintenance process optimization through innovative tools. Actually, we are in the phase of a pilot digital twin pilot modeling with the support of buildingSMART Italian chapter. And I'll turn it over to Luca, to my colleague, that will show you this pilot and so the modeling with the use of IFC 4.3.
Thank you. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Now let's take a closer look to the approach that we use to create the digital models of our reference section, which is the Rome to Florence line. It is a complex line with a length of about 260 kilometers and characterized by the presence of several major civil engineers' work like bridges, tunnel, and etc. Now, the input data for the modeling were different. and coming from different sources. And the selection of this input, both for geometry and information, depended on the model uses that we defined according to our data model and the objective of this project. After the definition of the inputs, next step was to define the tools that can support the modeling phases. Our approach was to use different software from different vendors in order to test the interoperability between each tool, and also to see how the market can meet our needs in terms of information requirements. Now, how you can see, we used Autodesk Revit and Sierra Soft Rails as BIM authoring, and more precisely Autodesk Revit for civil works modeling, and Sierra Soft Rails for the railway modeling. Then we used Blender for IFC data editing, and as BIM by akka for visualization and federation of the models. The information structure in the models was defined according to our data model, and here you can see how the information are organized both spatially and functionally inside the models for every type of element of the models. This organization is not random. In fact, it responds on some specific needs of our organization, in particular related to maintenance strategies. In fact, one of the main goals of our data model was to create a solid data structure that can support our processes and be fully compatible with the openBIM standards. Here we see an example of a culvert and a railway section. All the elements are placed in the specific spatial structure. And if we take the culvert as an example, this subdivision represents how this type of civil work is actually managed. In fact, some of our maintenance tools put particular attention on the elevator structure, because it is where most of the activities of monitoring and inspection are made. So in the models, we needed to create information box in order to be able to associate the proper information related to the maintenance field. Here on the chart in the chart on the right, we can see how we translated this organization in IFC with the IFC 4.3 schema. We divided the railway section in railway superstructure and railway substructure, and also the culvert in elevator structure and foundation. And we associated all these elements to specific classes of spatial structure of the IFC 4.3. Okay, now we jump into the functional organization, taking as an example the railway infrastructure. We can see how the elements are not just listed one by one, but they are organized in groups. And this is also because we wanted to reflect our specific need in maintenance. In fact, if we take, for example, the sleepers, from a maintenance point of view, it makes a little sense to consider them as a singular element in the model, because all the activities of maintenance are carried out on groups of sleepers. So we needed to create, to replicate this logic in the models, in order to be able to have an entity in the model that have a maintenance dignity, and also associate the specific informations. So the results shows that we were able to correctly create or replicate our needs with the IFC 4.3, but the process was not easy. Not easy because we faced some issues with the instruments, the tools that we used, in particular related to the export phase in IFC. For example, with Revit, we were able to create groups in a hierarchical structure with nested groups in the authoring workspace. But after the exporting phase, all the groups were listed on a single level, so the hierarchy was lost. Also, we were not able to create multiple facilities of the same type under the same IFC bridge in the same under the same IFC site in a single model, and this fact also affected the federation strategies. And finally, both with Revit and Sierrasoft, we were not able to create and correctly export assemblies in the IFC models. So the correct organization of the information inside the models was defined with a post-processing operation using Blender. Now, just a few considerations about federation. As I said earlier, we had some troubles for the culvert and the bridges because we were not able to create different IFC bridge under the same IFC site. So we created a single model of a culvert or of the bridge in a single and then we federated later all the models. And for the infrastructure model, the final result was obtained federating the superstructure models and the substructure models. Okay, beyond models organization, another important focus was on the alignment. In fact, the information of the alignment and strictly related to the possibility of obtaining the linear placement of the object in the models. This approach has several advantages, but what was most important for us was to replicate some positioning logics of our company tools, in particular asset management tools, where the objects are positioned in relation with the alignment with the kilometer marker. Okay. So in this case, also we had some trouble with when exporting the models with the object positioned with linear positioning. In fact, with Revit does not support this functionality, and with Sierrasoft, it was possible to place the object with linear placement in the workspace, but after the export process, this information was not inherited by the instances in the models. Solution, we created dedicated set of properties that automatically takes the information of the kilometer related to the start of the alignment, and also takes the offset, the lateral offset from the alignment in order to simulate the functioning of the linear placement. Okay, now just a few considerations about the overall experience with the modeling in IFC 4.3. IFC is a powerful, we saw how powerful IFC can be in managing complex and customized information In fact, our data model is have a lot of information and a lot of specific information. So we needed to create some tailored classes, and even with a high level of complexity, we were able to correctly manage and export all the information during the workflow. Also, to maintain a consistency between the models in the activity, we had to move from the old version of the IFC to the new IFC 4.3. And this is not easy because it meant to completely organize the information inside the models. But it also showed us how important it is to keep the standard updated in order to correctly be able to manage infrastructure. And finally, during the validation phases, we found several formal errors compared to the IFC schema. For example, some errors were about the geometry of the alignment, which must always match the design logic. And in a traditional process, this problem would probably have been remained hidden and create some issues later. With the IFC, we were able to find and fix this error earlier, avoid the accumulation of them, and so we were able to improve the quality of the information in the models. So now, conclusion. Adopting the IFC is a key step to guarantee interoperability and high quality data during the life cycle of infrastructure, but the existence, the standard alone is not enough. In fact, its implementation needs certification, validation, and support. In particular, an official software certification system is needed in order to guarantee correct implementation of the IFC in the infrastructure field. And also, adoption by the software vendors must be tracked with lesson learned and feedback from real use cases or pilot projects in order to be able to correctly define information requirements that can meet the market. And also, we need to support we need guidelines, template, and an active technical community that can support the implementation of the standard. And also looking ahead, it would be great to have more dedicated programs and working groups that can expand the project like IFC Rail and promote new activities involving vendors, private and public stakeholders and users. And also, it would be great to have a certified interoperability ecosystem where the compliance to the IFC 4.3 is demonstrable and constantly updated in order to align the standard to the new scenarios like digital twins, predictive diagnostic, and sustainability. So thank you for your time and your attention.
This is Christoph from Bentley speaking. Very impressive. Congratulations. Very good approach, but it also looks like a nightmare because of all the UIDs. I think one comment, I've seen CATIA as a database backbone. I think nobody realized this. And I believe it's because like there's so many correlations, N by M correlations with your objects, that you need a PLM backbone, and it's the right approach. That's one thing. That's just a comment. Another comment why it creates so many nightmares is because of all the authoring programs are optimizing their data structure for their own proprietary format. And if you look at assembly groups or so, that's typical manufacturing, discrete manufacturing. They always need this assembly groups, Baugruppen. And I think no CAD or BIM program at the moment is thinking that way. So I think that the nightmare starts with using an authoring program and then exporting into a, let's say, transport format like IFC. And it will be probably a nightmare when you have changes that are being created in Revit, post-processed in Blender, and just to keep track of the UIDs. But elsewise, very, very impressive. But it shows that typical authoring programs are not suited to serve as a data source on a permanent level. That's what I would say. And then a recommendation, I use Blender for post-processing a lot as well to, sort of screw around with the attributes. It's very good to use with which I think it's a little bit cumbersome in Revit or not possible at all. So maybe an answer to the database backbone, because you create your own data structure, which I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. You can see there, so we can pass the mic around the room. Just press, yeah. Take this. Yeah, you can see.
Yeah, for the data model, of course, we started with, you can see the Excel. So we need an evolution to manage all the connection of the information that we have, and we need more power for instruments. So we decided to move with CAD.
Who's assigning the UID? Because every element has a So every element has a UID, a unique identifier, back in your system. Who's assigning the UID? Who is that? Which engine is doing
They
this?
are related to other. The objective of our data model is to take all the information that we have in our company and bring them in a system that can be compatible with the openBIM standards. Now, the ID of the element of the single information were defined in other tools that we have in our company. So we are not defining new IDs.
Okay, so well, you got to make sure that the UID stays a UID. If it comes from different sources, that's even a bigger nightmare.
Yeah. Of course. Now we are working on translating the data model in CATIA. So there in this new management information system, we will have a unique ID for every information.
And is every IFC element gets their own ID in the CATIA database, correct? It's
Yes.
not like you have an IFC container, but every element, every IFC element gets a UID and its own record in the database, correct?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. It's not of course.
Yes.
But it's a very good approach. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You showed that you use the ACA software, the viewer, and is it capable? I don't know, for the whole capable for the whole 260 kilometers model, or how do you deal with that size?
Okay, we use the visualizator to support the modeling phases for the models that now we have available to this bigger project of the pilot of the digital twin. We don't have 260 kilometers of models, but because it is a work in progress. But for all the models that we created, it was like, I don't know, 10 or 50 kilometers for every section. The visualizator functioned well, and we were able to properly visualize all the FC models that we created.
I was thinking of the requirements for your when you acquire an IFC model. How will you on what level have you developed the requirements so that you can ensure that you get the IFC models structured in the way that you want? I mean, it's not enough to say that you should deliver IFC 4.3. It must be delivered according to the way you have structured the model. And so how do you, on what level are your requirement documents in that sense?
Okay, the requirements are defined according to the objective of the modelings. If we are talking about the information that we have in our data model and that we put in for our requirement, those information were defined with an activity of communication of our specialists in the company to get their needs in order to relatives to what they wanted to see and on what level they wanted to see in the models. So with this time of interaction with specific people in the company, we defined the information requirements that we put in the model.
Yes, I understand that the experts are defining the requirements. So, but how is that then transferred to the IFC model so that you can be assured that you get the right attributes and properties in the IFC file for the right classes and the right properties and so on? Will you use IDS for that, or how do you define the requirement? How the IFC file should be structured when it's delivered to you?
Come si chiama il capitolato informativo in inglese? Okay. We define documents where we put the information that we need, the information requirements. It's like the BEP, where we put the information and then we check the models confronting to to what we wanted to see in the models.
Before we close, I hand over to Ivan. You got an extra slide information.
Tarmo, are you still in the room? No, he's left. You should be one. So buildingSMART Finland and buildingSMART France is hosting the InfoBIM Open every other years, and next year it will be in Paris from the 8th to 10th of June. And call for papers is now open, so it's possible to start sending in papers. I can't remember if the page is infobimopen.org or .com, but either or, you'll find it. So I took a look, and right now the deadline is the 9th of January of next year.